Yo guys, it is Old Man G here, back again for the latest Manchester United transfer news. But before we get into it, guys, if you are new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio, bottom right hand corner, on Twitter, Twitch, etc. etc. Obviously, this is back to my 10 o'clock show, giving you, obviously, reacting to the latest news, obviously, today. Obviously, we've got some major updates, if you want to call them major updates. Everyone seems to be calling them major updates regarding Gyokeres and Mbeumo, actually coming from Ben Jacobs, who is obviously one of the journalists that I trust, as well as Fabrizio and Ornstein, who's given us a bit of an update regarding Gyokeres and Mbeumo, to just sort of help us out on our way, so that's pretty good. On top of that, we'll be reacting obviously live to any sort of updates going on as we are live, but also sort of discussing outgoings, future plans for next season, etc, etc. So yeah, remember, maybe to make sure that you drop a like and subscribe, obviously pin comment as well for the links, so and get involved. Hopefully we can have a good show, polls, everything. We want to keep this sort of interactive as well, guys. And also we are pushing to get to 5K subscribers. So please get involved there. So big up, Temison says United want Gyökeres and Brentford. I think you've posted this comment before. So, but yeah, just the same old stories. And no, you know what? You're right. A lot of these are similar, but at the end of the day, it's news. We have to cover it. We are a transfer United news channel as well. So I prefer, in my opinion, to go, if a Twitter journalist who is respectable posts an update, I prefer to cover it. I'm not really into, if it's people that are like unreliable sources and Twitter, but if it's actually journalists posting updates, I think it's reasonable to go to actually dissect what they're saying and consider it. So yeah. Luke Jones says, have Atlanta United home shirt. That's what United States got yesterday. Oh, big up, Atlanta United. Big up. I'm sure I'm good. It's good that you're enjoying that. So so fair play to you. So anyway, let's get into it. So obviously we have a Gyökeres update, and also we have an Mbeumo update as well. So this is obviously from Ben Jacobs, as you can see in the description. Ben Jacobs has said here, Viktor Gyökeres is a player on Manchester United's list. Okay, and Gyökeres, and this is, I think, the key list, which means there are other players. And I think that's what's drawing me from my attention to this. And Gyökeres is open to moving even without UCL. Okay, so that again confirms what we're saying. Man UFC are assessing multiple striker options after missing out on Delap. Okay, I'm not going to come back to this paragraph because I think it's interesting. So I think a lot of people just assume that when Delap wasn't there, that United were just going to be focusing on getting Gyökeres in, but actually they have, according to Ben Jacobs, most options. Gyökeres also has several suitors, including Saudi, although it's believed he wants to stay in Europe. So obviously we knew beforehand that Saudi, are interested in getting Gyökeres. They're interested in putting a bid for him because they obviously want a marquee striker. I suspect as he says, he believes he wants to stay in Europe. He's still quite, I say young. He's 27, isn't he? Sporting don't have any formal bids yet, but are expected to sell for around 70 million euros, which is basically about 60 million pounds sterling, which I think, like I said, United can afford. If they don't have outgoings, I think they can. They can afford Gyökeres. But I think it's interesting. It is interesting. I want to focus on the first part of this paragraph, actually, which is Viktor Gyökeres is a player on Manchester United's list, and Gyökeres is opening to moving ahead without UCL. So I want to focus on that first part, and the reality, and on the term list as well, because I'm curious to see what other strikers Manchester United have. And that's one reason why I covered the Osimhen update, because it won't be just Gyökeres that's on the list. I wonder if Osimhen is on the list, with someone like Jonathan David is on the list, etc. Or that it can't be players like Isak or Haaland, for example. That would be almost impossible to get. So, I mean, let me know what you think, and maybe I'll put a poll on. But if you're in a chat and watching, what other striker options do you think Manchester United would obviously be considering? Because Gyökeres being, and we don't, and the thing is, based on this list, they're not even saying that Gyökeres is even the first choice. The only reason why we're saying that Gyökeres' first choice was there is because of and we assume he's the first choice, is because of the Ruben Amorim factor, the Ruben Amorim connection, the link between the two. We're saying, right, okay, they work together. He's obviously one of the most prolific strikers in Europe so far at this moment in time. There doesn't seem to be many people that are going for him currently, although obviously there was rumors of Arsenal. Of course, why aren't we in? Of course we could go in for him. So yeah, I generally am curious to see what other players Manchester United are what other players are on Manchester United's striking list, according to Ben Jacobs anyway. I think that would be interesting. The other part of this is obviously the fact that he's open to moving without UCL football. I think obviously that is a big thing, because I think a lot of people thought that, and we kind of touched on it before about his UCL football options. Is he going to be coming or not? Blah 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 blah, because of the of the lack of UCL. But the reality is, so that he's fine with it. And I think if the assumption is that he's holding out, like I said, for Amorim for Manchester United, then all the more. So, he could have easily gone to or wanted to push for a Chelsea like Delap did. Delap, for me, it was obvious from the beginning that he wanted UCL football. I think that was obvious. But Gyökeres, clearly it's not. It's not. He's happy to come. So that's important, Eddie, big up Eddie. Eddie, big up Eddie's dropping like listing. Thank you, buddy. It'd be good to have you on again at some point, man. Really, really, we would appreciate you coming on, Eddie. Really, really. But yeah. So for me, it would be it would make sense. The additional bit about assessing multiple strikers after missing out. Exactly. So, like I said, I mean, and if ever you're watching, I was watching, I'm just curious to see what the other striking options would be. What are the other striking options Manchester United assessing? Let me know in the chat. Gyökeres having several suitors, including Saudi. So I highly doubt Gyökeres is going to be going to Saudi anytime soon. I don't think that's a thing. I'd be very, very surprised if Gyökeres was going to Saudi Arabia, to be honest. Although money talks, but I mean, Osimhen, Theo Hernandez, and who else? Bruno, all rejected Saudi already. So I doubt Gyökeres, a player that at least has some interest, is probably not going to be going to Saudi. That's what I would probably say. And then, of course, the last part, Sporting don't have any form bids, so no one has actually gone in. I think that's really important to remind ourselves about. Now, Manchester United, I personally think that's just because of the cost right now. I don't think that Manchester United right now, with the way their finances are, would put in a bid for Gyökeres without there being some without selling somebody. That's what I think anyway. However, if Garnacho does go, for me personally, I just think that the issue is Garnacho or not having a sale. So if Garnacho goes, boom, we probably will be able to go in and put in a bid in for Gyökeres. Financially, I think that's the big issue. But the fact that it's going to be 70 million euros, which is essentially 60 million pounds, I think I just see it as simply this figure is basically what United should sell Garnacho for. You could maybe get away with selling Garnacho for 60 million a euro, so 50 million pounds, as it were. So, but ideally, you like the amount that we pay on Gyökeres should be the amount that we basically sell Garnacho for. That's personally what I think. RD, so I think we will bid when the Argentine letter gets bin to Getafe. Well, Getafe have to spend. Well, like I said, RD7, RD17. Getafe have to pay the 70 million euro or the 60 million euros. They have to do that first. Getafe have to pay that first, and when Getafe paid that, then I think that will go in. The fact that there aren't that many people in for Gyökeres or haven't submitted a bid for Gyökeres. Now, I don't know actually, whether that's a red flag. In fact, again, let me get. I like the poll. A lot of people said Mbeumo's first. Let me just put a poll because I like interacting with you guys. Do you guys think it's a red flag that no one's bid for Gyökeres yet? Red flag that no one has bid for Gyökeres. Yeah, I'm curious to see what the community says because as Ben Jacobs has said, as the tweet sort of says, for someone who is seen as being one of the best upcoming strikers in European football, why is it that no one has gone for it? And I can explain it by different circumstances and people of different, circumstances. Like City aren't going to bid because they've got Haaland. Same thing with Newcastle with Isak. Chelsea with Delap, I think. But what about everybody else? He might put something on the grill when he ends up in Elche in his prime. As even still referring to Garnacho, man. So listen, I mean, I at the end of the day, whatever people say about Garnacho, I still think Garnacho's a talent, and Garnacho needs to be sold for a reasonable amount because I think he'll thrive as a winger. He's still a young player, he's still immature, he's still grow. He might not be the same player when he's 25 or 26. And so because to circumvent that, what you do is you sell him for 50 million euros, 60 million euros, and you put in like a sell-on clause in that. Then that's fine. A buyback, maybe you could put a buyback in, maybe, but I would do a sell-on clause of some sort and just make sure that you don't cut him off forever. We need to get something from him because in terms of sales, he's probably the only player that I can think of since Sir Alex Ferguson where I feel like, right, we could probably get a good amount for Garnacho. We sold McTominay for 40 million, I think. Rashford will probably go for 40. So from an academy point of view, Garnacho could go easily for about 60 million, which is pretty good for an academy prospect. Whatever you say of him, how many other United academy prospects have been able to go and lose for that amount of money, Jokes aside, if anyone with a sell-on clause should exactly. I would if that's 50 million pounds sterling, which is 60 million euros, I think I'd be happy with that. I ideally want a bit more, maybe 70 euros or 60 million pounds sterling, if we can, because I do think that unlike maybe others, that there will be a lot more competition for Garnacho. The Ten Hag with Leverkusen, if they get the money from that. Obviously, Italian teams. As we discussed yesterday, with the Fabrizio's tweet, there was Italian teams, Leverkusen, and 3 Premier League teams. So there is interest. There's a lot of interest for Garnacho. I think, if I'm honest, the top 3 teams I think are probably Chelsea, Leverkusen, and then probably like a Napoli or an Inter. That's what I think. So there is interest. So I do genuinely believe you could sell Garnacho for 60 million this summer if we engage in a bidding war and a bidding conflict to get that out of the way. That's what I think. Tim says, please United what? Please United get Gyökeres or please United sell Garnacho. But yeah, I think that Tim says, United, I want to I want. Did you post this before? Yeah, you literally posted this before. I want Gyökeres and Mbeumo, Ederson, and Martinez United. I don't know whether I still don't know what Ederson is probably looking like he's going to Saudi at this rate. And then Martinez, we'll see. So there's 40 plus of you guys watching. Come on, guys, let's get to at least 40 likes, please. If you're not liked the vid, please like, share, and subscribe to Red Studio bottom around the corner. Like the vid and get the engagement up. I'd really appreciate it so we can spread the channel and get the goals. So no one's okay. So a few people voted about these. So no people say no, it's not a red flag. At least majority of you are saying it. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe I'm overthinking it. It's just that I do think it is a little bit weird that a top talent like Gyökeres is not being sought after. Again, that could be purely just because of the circumstances that other clubs, find themselves in. But yeah, it just has me a little bit kind of like, why? Why is it that there's not at least some sort of competition? Because usually with Manchester United, when there isn't a competition for things, it doesn't end well. So, but again, I could be wrong here. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Gyökeres simply just waiting on us, and it could be that exactly. This is the thing. It could be that. It could be that Gyökeres and Mbeumo are just waiting on Gyökeres and Mbeumo are they're just waiting on Manchester United to submit the bid, and once the bid is submitted, they're going to accept it. I think that's probably out, and we'll talk about Mbeumo in a second because Ben Jacobs has made an update there. But I just want to spend the first half an hour talking about Gyökeres, then go to Mbeumo. We'll sort of go back and forth basically. So yeah, it could simply be that. I think that clearly Mbeumo has I think Newcastle, Arsenal are not in the picture, so it is literally just a question of him waiting. At least with Brentford, I think that's United have actually submitted a bid already that was rejected, and they're in the process of submitting a second bid. So that I'm a lot more certain about because I think that. Sorry, 1 second. I think that. Sorry. I think that is basically in a sense of Mbeumo Kune is essentially most of our transfer budget, and so we need to sell afterwards. So the issue with Gyökeres is more the fact that I think that we need to sell to be able to kind of pursue the deal. Owen Offset says hello from Malta. Oh, shout out to Malta, man. I always wanted to visit. So at some point I will in the future, but good to have you on the channel, man. Always appreciate it. Let's just hope that we get Gyökeres and it's looking really good. Yeah, and the thing is, what when that does happen, and when we get the signings, one thing we're going to do on the channel is that we will start to begin to preview what Manchester United will begin to look like the following season. And I'm telling you, Gyökeres with Mbeumo and Kune behind is looking dirty. Let me just say, if you've got Gyökeres up top with Mbeumo and Kune behind, it's looking dirty. It's looking from an attack point of view, that's looking really dirty. And as well as the fact that if for whatever reason Amram goes and we have to bring in a new manager, at least you can say, right, okay, if we're going to play wingers again, Gyökeres can still be up top and Mbeumo can play on the right, or was it the left? I think it is, Kune can be in behind in the 10 position. And then you can play like Ahmad on the right, for example, something. So, we've got the flexibility can be built into the players, is what I'm saying. So, but shout out to you, buddy. And Mbeumo, no doubt. Yeah, and Mbeumo, no doubt is it. I don't have a doubt about that. I think it's just a question of, I suspect with Mbeumo, we'll be getting, here we go, very, very soon with Mbeumo. I suspect we will. Hopefully this week. But I suspect the offer will be close to around about 60 million pounds from Mbeumo to go to Brentford. Because again, Brentford are no condition, no rush, etc. So over 50 people watching, guys. Come on, guys, get those likes up to 50 likes, please. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. Get those to 50 likes. Let's roll to 50 likes. Roll to 50 likes, guys. Let's do this. Detroit City says, shout out to, big up Detroit, man. Shout out to RDS. Is Arsenal going all in? I mean, it seems that way. It seems that way. I think obviously there is mention of Arsenal looking in at Gyökeres, but it seems, it does seem that they're prioritizing Sesko, which I find interesting because I'll be honest, Sesko for me, I mean, I think you mentioned it before. I feel like Sesko is just a much like and I could be wrong, but I feel like with Sesko, I just get Timo Werner vibes. And maybe not even that, because Timo Werner at least had pace. He was useful. He was a useful brick at times. Sesko, I just see it happening that way. And I just think that if Arsenal go, I'm surprised Arsenal didn't go in for Gyökeres, to be honest. To me, that's their guy. I don't know if Sesko is more of an Arteta type player, but I generally don't know. Yeah, I can understand Oshrin because of his wages. I get that, but Sesko, or maybe it's just hype. I don't know. I don't know. Godfrey, we shouldn't get players that everyone wants, but what we want, we need. The fact that no one has made a bid for Viktor Gyökeres. Yeah, no, I don't. So Geoffrey, I completely agree with that. I completely agree. I don't think that, there not being any offers doesn't 100% mean that he's crap or etc. etc. It's just that the only reason I mentioned it is because, given the talent and the hype around Gyökeres, I just think it's a little bit, weird that Spawn have received no bids. That's just what I find weird. Like, it's just like, he's scored how many goals? He's a prolific talent. He's got all these different sorts of things, and yet Sporting haven't received like not even one bid, not even interest from anybody. I don't know. I just find that a little bit weird, and so it just makes me think, is there something that is going on in the background that we don't know about? Because I don't want to be in a similar situation with Ten Hag, where, let's be real, there was a lot of us being like, right, okay, we need to go and we need to back Ten Hag and give him his players and all the rest of it. But then at the end of the day, a lot of the time, it was just to help his own, company or thingy, etc. If that makes any sense. Detroit says he's not ready. He's not ready for the EPL. I don't. Yeah, it's regarding to Sesko. Yeah, it's a very physical league. I'm not sure how it's going to work, to be honest. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I think that if I am Sesko and if I'm Arsenal, I might have to rethink. But we'll see. Abdul says, "Do we have enough mind to go these players?" And Abdul is obviously making a lot of sense. And that's why I think that, like, because Sporting was seeing a bid, the Garnacho sale. Obviously, Bruno is still here. I think if Bruno had gone reluctantly, you'd have the money to go, but he's not. So you're looking at the Garnacho and Rashford sale, but I don't see Rashford and Sancho happening early on in the transfer window because of their wages. Whereas whereas Garnacho, because of the offers that are there, because of the competition that's there, which there is for Garnacho, for Rashford and Sancho, you know, I mean, there might be for Rashford if his wages weren't so high, and I think he's just holding out on Barca. That's it. So that's going to be complicated. Sancho, I've got no idea what's going to happen to that guy. I've got zero idea what's happening to Sancho. To be honest, like it's basically it's on him to decide what is going to happen to him. Whereas Garnacho, okay, I can see how many clubs would potentially be like, right, okay, we can work with this guy and we'll pay the 60 million because he's got the potential. From Kick, tap in, got I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. It's fair play. I mean, but yeah, bop in the head, but you know, fair play. For those who are watching on Kick, I do stream to Kick. So if you are on Kick, please subscribe to or follow Red Devil Studio. So link is in the description. But yeah, get involved there. So we also need to factor in fit as well. He does not really fit with Arsenal and Chelsea style of play. That's true. Gyökeres fits us like a glove. I believe he knows his. I think that's true. I think that's a good point. Style of play is definitely, I think, something that's important. And like I said, I'm sure Ruben Amorim will know that. He will know how Gyökeres plays. He'll know what he needs. He'll know. Hence why he's probably trying to sort out the wing-back situation, you know, the 10s, etc. He knows that. So I do think that if United somehow put off Cunha and Mbeumo and Gyökeres, even if you replace Onana, if you don't replace Onana, it's still a deadly attack. It's a much better attack than what we have. This season, our attack was Højlund with either Bruno or Ahmad or Mount or Bruno or Xerxes or just that was the attack. You go from that to Gyökeres, Cunha, and Mbeumo. Maybe Bruno's deep. Maybe Bruno contributes. You can bring in Mount or Xerxes or whatever, and suddenly the United bench gets a lot more interesting. Personally, it gets a lot more interesting. And at least with Mbeumo and Cunha, you've got players that have Premier League experience. Mount, quite frankly, I never rated in the beginning. I always thought that the guy was I'm not saying as a bum. Sorry, but I always thought that I just didn't see why we should spend 60 million on the guy. For what? Owen, if we sign Gyökeres, Cunha, and Mbeumo, I will be over the moon. Not only for the best signing years, but because United changed the mentality. Exactly. Partly because I'll be over the moon because we made the signings early. We fixed what was a major issue. Because the biggest issue with Manchester United, for me, over the last couple of years, is that United have had glaring issues. You know, there was a left back issue, there was a defensive issue, there were so many different issues. And rather than attempt to fix them in the January and the summer, we would do a little bit and then basically use makeshift players to sort things out. You know, at one point, we didn't have a left back. We were using Dallo to play on the left-hand side for ages. And in January or in summer, you could go and fix it because you still thought that Shaw would be able to do something. It didn't work. You know, so fixed. So I'm liking that at least we've identified the fact that, listen, our attack was trash. We didn't score that many goals. That is the big issue. Yes, Onana can be a brick. Yes, there are issues there. But the attack is the most important thing that needs to be revamped. United need to be able to go into next season, and I need to be like, right, okay, we've got an attacking force that can score goals. And if it doesn't, then you can't blame the ownership. You know, maybe you could blame the manager, potentially how he utilizes him, but you've got the players. Because Mbeumo was basically the fourth top scorer in the league last season, just behind, I think, Isak, Haaland, and Salah. So, you know, and Cunha in his position was able to score at least 15 goals in all competitions. You know, none of our attackers were able to. I don't think Ahmad, Xerxes, Hoyland, Bruno might have, but I don't think any of those guys, you know, were able to get this goal. I just don't think so. Well, as you mean PFI or effector sign. So there's actually a nice video about this that HITC Sport has done regarding you know, financial issues and stuff like United, and the short answer is no, it will not. Manchester United generate enough revenue that won't be a thing. It's still tight, and yet the rules have been tightened, but I don't think that is as big of an issue as people make out. I think, yes, if you're expecting United to spend 300 mil this summer, then no, that's not going to happen. But I think if we're talking about actually getting the signings that we need, yes, we might need to make one or two sales, but they're going to sell anyway. But yeah, I don't think so. Big up, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie Mard. Thank you, always supporting Manchester United channel. Stephanie, really appreciate it. But like I said, guys, for those who are watching, those 40 people that are watching, please hit the like button, get involved, subscribe if you're new. Bottom right hand corner as well. I believe there should be more of an emphasis on getting in a good wing back. It's arguably the most important position in Amram's system. Yeah, I mean, the wing back situation is interesting because I think that Ahmad will play there. I actually personally think that's where Ahmad should play, not in the number 10 position. I think he's better off coming from wide and coming inside, but also creating from that position. And then obviously you've got Dorgu, who I think will improve. You know, we've got to remember that Amram's first choice was Nuno Mendes, who bored against Spain and against them. That was the first choice. Dorgu was obviously, you know, second. So I think that Dorgu who is still young. People say Dorgu is bad. Like, he's still young. He still needs game time. He needs obviously a preseason. He literally came in January, and he was still better in my opinion than I'll be frank with Shaw. You know, people say Dorgu's this. Well, you know, what are the alternatives right now? Because the alternative is Dorgu and Shaw. Malacia is there, I guess, but Malacia has kind of slipped off. He's got injured and is probably going to be moved on. So for me, as far as I'm aware, Dorgu is our best left back, left wing back, etc. Shaw and Malacia, you could argue, need to be moved on. We've got to remember that we've got in the new guy from I think was it Flamengo, called Diego Leon, and he's obviously on a left wing back. So that will be interesting. I think Amram will. I don't know if it was a left back or left wing back, because we signed him in January, I think, and that would have been after Ten Hag signed him. So I think that we'll at least be able to assess them. I think it'll be interesting to have. I think, you know, if you've got Dorgu and that Diego Leon guy coming in, I think it'll be interesting that they can both compete for that left wing back spot, is what I would say. The right wing back spot is Ahmad, and then maybe you could get another one there. But then you've got Dallo. You know, I think that Matswari shouldn't be there. It's too defensive. He doesn't attack. He shouldn't be there. But I think you could play Dallo there. So for me, Ahmad and Dallo on the right wing back position, and then you've got Diego and Dorgu on the left, and then basically, you know, we can take things from there. And then if you need to, if they're not good enough, then, you know, you move off one of those. You know. Big up artists in the chat. I don't know what that is. Sorry, on the kick. Big up G and all in the chat. Big up, big up, big up. Big up, Rob. Thank you for joining in, man. Appreciate it, buddy. We're going to move to talk to Mbeumo in a second as well, actually. Dorgu has the potential to be good, but he's not ready. We need to play it within the 28-31 range to give him time to prove. I mean, yes, but then I think that means that we need to sell Shaw. If Shaw goes, then fine. But we've put Shaw on big wages, so the only way that we can do that is if we offload Shaw. And I don't know how we're going to do that. If we offload Shaw, and I think, yeah, you bring in experienced left wing backs that Dorgu can interchange with him. But I don't know if we can do that. That's the biggest thing. And now that you've got Diego thing, for me, like I didn't like, I'll be honest, the fact that in the final, you know, Amram started Shaw and Mount. You know, there was a Brexit final with Shaw, Mount, and Maguire in. Okay, Maguire, I understand because Maguire earned his final spot. Like he scored the clutch goal. He's been relatively solid defensively. Yes, he had his issues, but for me, he earned it. Shaw and Mount didn't earn a starting spot in the, you know, I completely agree with Garnacho from this front where, like, for me, Shaw and Mount didn't earn their right to play in the final. They were injured for most of the season, and then they kind of just get ready, and they both of them, Mount was missing, as he usually is in these circumstances, and Shaw was awful, partly responsible for the goal. So for me, I don't want to see Shaw. Mount can be a bench player until we figure out what to do with him. Shaw, for me, needs to go. And with Diego coming in, you know, in that wing back position, Shaw's not there. When it comes to defense, okay, can Shaw play the left side? Fine, but there are other players there, you know? So, yeah. Diego Leon has potential to be really good, but he's not ready. Yeah, I don't think any of these things are ready, but at the end of the day, if we're honest, we're saying we're not ready. We're not even playing in Europe next season. We're playing in the Premier League. So we're playing a game a week. And then FA Cup and Cup games. You know, I'm not looking forward to it, I'll be quite honest, but you know, we should be able to manage a squad and get enough game time for people to give them the opportunity to play when we're only playing a game a week, compared to other teams that we're playing 2 games a week, etc., etc. You know, we should use this opportunity, given the fact that, frankly, you know, likes of City and Chelsea that are going to be playing in the Club World Cup till July, and then pre-season are going to be tired and exhausted. We should be able to use the opportunity to use our pre-season to really get our players up to scratch and hit the ground running. I want you to greet us as a sub, says Albert. Yeah, I do too. I do too, buddy. I do too. Gone are the days when United had super subs like Chicharito who would just would have the impact to do what they had. Yeah, those days are gone, unfortunately. We need our wing backs to be attacked. Yeah, exactly. So this is what I'm saying. So Ahmad does when he's on, but Matswari does not. Dorgu does, you know. So Dorgu and Ahmad, when Dorgu and Ahmad leave the side, we push forward. But Matswari, Shaw and Dallo do not. Shaw partly because of fitness issues, I think. You know, so it's how good is it? I don't know, but he's definitely a talent. He is definitely a talent, you know. So I definitely think that you know, yeah, I definitely think there's potential there. I definitely think there is definitely potential there. 100% there's potential there. Yeah. She's sure. Yeah, well, sure should have been sold. Should have been sold ages ago. So, right, let's quickly move on to Ben Jacobs' other updates regarding Mbeumo, which is obviously part of this as well. And let me know, because I don't think, I'm just having a quick look before I get into that the Mbeumo news. I don't think there's been anything else. Let me have a look. I don't think. Yeah, Manchester City are it's what Manchester City doing is worrying me. By the way, it's worrying me. Just a Bournemouth deal. AC Milan and Chelsea with Mignon. Saudi Pro League has actually approached Benjamin Sesko as well. So the Saudi Pro League just seems to be just going out and asking for everybody. I mean, guys, come on. Geez, are they like? Are literally like the Saudi are linked with almost everybody, and it's like this top player, this top player, this top player. It's like, guys, you got to be tactical about it. Jeez. No, so no updates. Okay. Right, so let's quickly read the Ben Jacobs bit. So Bryan Mbeumo has made his preference to join Manchester United clear, and all suitors are aware. Point one. We'll come back to that in a second. Thomas Frank's expected arrival at Spurs could naturally change some transfer targets, but suggestions of a Spurs hijack from Mbeumo are for now premature. Manchester United solely focus on trying to agree a fee with Brentford. Okay, and this is something that's definitely more active. Spurs are looking at a right or central attacker with Tyler Dibbling on their list. But as of now, Manchester are currently the only side in formal talks with Brentford. And I think this is the reason why this is, I think, obviously, yesterday and a few days before, there was this idea. I just wanted to smash on a thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate it, buddy. Some talk of, Spurs will hijack deal. I knew it was paper talk. No one really mentioned it. It was just some information from to be honest, from the Mirror, to be honest, which wasn't exactly reliable. But I had a feeling that this wasn't the case. Albert says, I rate Mbeumo since FIFA 2008. Yeah, I do as well. Amongst other things. But like I said, this is why I said Mbeumo, Kunier, and Gyökeres is a front three from three different continents. You've got an African, a South American, and a European. All in the front three, all adding their abilities there, man. I think it's just will just pop off. I think it would generally pop off. It really, really would. So I am very, very pleased if United able to pull that off. But I think this update really puts to bed any kind of thoughts that any thought that sorry, I lost my train of thought. Any thought that Spurs win, Spurs will hijack Thomas Frank. As you said, as Ben Jacobs said in the first line of this, Bruno Mbeumo has made his preference for Manchester United clear, and all sorts of aware. So for me, this should be the sort of definitive thing that, listen, he said, right, I only want Manchester United, nobody else. I'm going to go to them. It is what it is. You've got to realize the pull that United have in Africa as well. Make it happen. Okay. So he's made United aware. He's made Brentford aware. It is what it is. And I'm happy about that because, like I said, this is the fourth top goal scorer in the Premier League last season. Now, whether he replicates that for Manchester United, it remains to be seen, given United's structure and what have you. So, but it's still big, it's still important, it's still significant because United were not going to be going to get Isak or Haaland or Salah. Wasn't happening. So you got the fourth best thing. Not that, because obviously Arsenal finished second, they didn't have the top score or Chelsea things, etc. It's not like the be on end all. You still want to be able to defend and hold the midfield, etc. But I still believe that the biggest issue of United that season was not our attack. Even though Onana was a brick at times, it was we couldn't score. if we scored the amount of goals that Mbeumo and other strikers scored for their clubs, I think that we at least finish in European spots. Maybe it's Europa League, maybe it's a push for CL. I don't know. Obviously, you know, the mention of Thomas Frank, but yeah, Manchester United, the hijack are for now premature. Manchester United solely focus on trying to agree a fee with Brentford, and that's the big thing. So I suspect, or you would expect or imagine, that they will agree some sort of fee for Mbeumo at some point. Well, I think anyway, at some point this week. That's what I think. You know, I mean, I know Sky, and I think there was. I'll come back to Gyökeres in a second because I know there was a brief mention from Sky about the intermediaries and things and stuff like that as well. I'm not sure how much truth there was to that. But yeah, I'll go back to Gyökeres once I come back to this point. Let me just see here. Spurs, so Spurs looking for a right or central attacker. Interesting. I thought the Spurs would be more interested in getting in sorting out the defense, quite frankly. And Tyler Dibbling does not sound like someone who's going to take Spurs to a top 5 finish. I don't get that impression. He doesn't seem to be the type of player who's going to do that. But as of now, Manchester United are currently the only side from talk to Brentford. Exactly. So, in summary, what I'm trying to say with this is that no one. United are in pole position to sign Mbeumo. They're in pole position. No one else is. No one else is engaged, and I suspect that because Mbeumo made it clear to people that there was nobody else but Manchester United, I think that will be beneficial for us. Let me quickly. So I will maybe come back to Mbeumo again. So that's the Mbeumo update. I think this for me is more significant update than Gyökeres because I think this dispels any myth about hijacks, about the deal not being on, about no submission. No, United have submitted a bid. It got rejected. We're working on a second bid. And Mbeumo has made it very clear that he only wants Manchester United. He will wait for Manchester United. And if Manchester United submit a bid, and they will submit a bid that's close enough to what Brentford want, he will come to Manchester United. So it's only really a matter of time for Mbeumo. And that's good to know. Now, let me quickly... I know I've talked a bit about Gyökeres already, but let me just show you. We'll go back to some of the news that happened during the day that I think was important, which I think is more, or you could argue maybe is more speculation. I don't know. Let me just, where is it? Not that one. This one here. Okay, yeah, so share this tab instead because it's on Twitter, isn't it? So yeah, so first things first, Sky Sports actually said that Manchester United have made an initial approach to sports striker Gyökeres through intermediaries. Sky Sports News has been told. So and Superman says Viktor Gyökeres has moved sporting from his Instagram profile. So there was later on the day the idea that they have engaged, with Sporting, made an initial approach for the intermediaries, which is a normal thing. That's what club owners tend to do before they obviously engage, not necessarily directly. So as to sort of see if the player's interested or blah, blah, blah. So I don't think there's anything particularly new here. It would surprise me, probably in the initial phases, because as we said earlier, Manchester United have a striker list. Not just Gyökeres is on the list, but Manchester United have a striker list. And so it makes sense that they would contact him for intermediate instead of doing a direct bid for Sporting right away, when you need to know things like one, is he going to the club? Two, what is it? What salary conditions does he want? Three, position, all these different sorts of things before you then say, right, Sporting, we're prepared to offer this amount. And also how desperate he wanted to come to Manchester United, because if Viktor Gyökeres desperately wants to come to United, he will put pressure on Sporting to accept, so a reasonable a reasonable offer is what I'm saying. If he doesn't, and he's like, "Hey, I'm not bothered. I could maybe come and make it, maybe not come. No big deal." Then it then puts pressure on Manchester United, because then we have to figure out, okay, how is it that we're going to kind of afford this guy? So that's important. If I scroll down, I mean, there's a mention about Viktor Gyökeres removing his Sporting from his Instagram profiles. Maybe he feels like he's getting a move. Maybe. Read of that what you will. I don't really read that much into social media posts, to be honest. Social media platforms, to be honest. Now, United stand, and I think this came from at Record Portugal, which I'm not entirely sure how reliable it is. I mean, there's got 430, so maybe they are. But the United Sun say Viktor Gyökeres is described as furious with Sporting for not respecting the gentleman's agreement. So we'll come back to that in a second. Harry Kane had a gentleman's agreement. Guys, bro, just a general rule to people. Gentleman's agreements, just don't do them, okay? Like 27 likes, guys. Come on, let's get to 30 likes at least. 30 likes at least for channel. I really, really appreciate it. Let's get to 30 likes at least. And if you're not subscribed already, bottom right hand corner, please. 30 likes. If we can get to that, that would be really, really good. What was I saying now? Sorry, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. They agreed that they'd sanction a move to certain clubs. So it says they agreed that they'd sanction a move to certain clubs for 60 million euros plus 10 million in add-ons. However, Sporting President Frederico Ferrandes now points to a valuation of 80 million euro, which would obviously be 70 million pounds. He has now removed mention of Sporting on his Instagram profile. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. At Record Portugal. Now, obviously, that's not come from like Fabrizio or Ornstein or Ben Jacobs, something like that. So maybe that is just sort of smoke and mirrors, to kind of get clubs to come and bid and to drive. I think potentially that it's like I kind of said. I think that I suspect the issue is that I think that the sporting director thought that there'd be more of a bidding war for Gyökeres. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I think that he thought, yeah, this guy is one of the best players. He's really, really good. He'll be able to, he'll be able to, help us with different things. This is our guy. And he deserves to be sold for like a lot of money. And then even though the transfer window has just started and just come up, the fact that there isn't a large focus, as Ben Jacobs said already, that no one is particularly interested in particularly interested in bidding for Gyökeres right now. If that's the case, then I assume the sportsman was like, well, okay, I thought that I did have a gentleman's agreement with you to say that it'd be 60 million, but I think that was because I thought that there'd be more people interested in your signature. And so naturally, you would have probably been sold for 80 million or something close to that, because there'd be multiple people. But now I'm in a situation where only potentially Manchester United might be interested in you. And obviously, Manchester United want to negotiate as low down as possible. So as a result, I'm going to increase your fee to be higher. because I want to get as much money from him as possible. And United need to be aware of that. That is why I suspect that the striking list is there, because one thing that I know about Ineos is that Ineos are not going to be taken for fools in terms of bidding and numbers, etc. We are going to have a list. Obviously, Osimhen, for example, I think from a fee wise would certainly be much easier to do. It's just his wages, but potentially you can negotiate that. So there are a lot of alternatives out there, which is why I suspect that Manchester United have a strikers list, because there's stuff like this that can happen. That Sporting can demand 80 million euros, and you can say, well, what? We want 80 million euros, you have to pay it. But Manchester United, or at least the new look Manchester United, don't have to, or don't necessarily want to do that. So yeah, I just think that yes, it was a gentleman's agreement, but it should be you can't have a, much like Kane. You need, if you're going to have an agreement, it should be a written agreement. Not a gentleman's agreement, not any of this backhanded sort of stuff. No, you need to actually have we agreed on this is what we're going to do, and we're going to pursue it and leave it at that. That's what I think anyway. But who am I? Was there anything else in that? Let's see. Any other posts about Gyökeres here? Not that one, because that's Victor's is one to watch over. Yeah, so nothing really new. Really, the only piece of additional information to what Ben Jacobs said was just in summary that United have made at least some sort of contact with intermediaries, which we'd expected, and also Viktor Gyökeres isn't particularly happy with Sporting, and it's clear to me that he wants to leave the club. It'll be I definitely think, the way I'm looking at this transfer right now is that I suspect that this is going to be, I know people want it to be done soon. And I do think if we're to sell Garnacho tomorrow, it could be done soon. But I just have a feeling that, unfortunately, if we are going to go for Gyökeres, that this is probably not going to be done. Maybe if I'm going to be hopeful, it'll be done before preseason, so he can go on the preseason with the other guys. My goodness, if we start our preseason with Gyökeres and Mbeumo and Kune there, it's going to be great. But I just have this sneaky suspicion that that's not going to be the case, and it's going to be a bit tricky. So, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, it's been an hour streaming. Thank you so much for those who are watching. Get involved and shout out to those in the chat as well. Remember, if you are new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter and Red Devil Studio X. We're also on Kick, Twitch, Instagram as well. Follow us there as well. Have a nice day, guys, and cheers. Peace.